Let me ask you something personal. When was the last time you climbed a flight of stairs and felt completely fine at the top? Not winded, not grabbing the railing, not needing a moment to catch your breath before you kept moving. If you had to pause and really think about that, this video is for you. Because here's what most people over 60 don't realize. The body doesn't break down all at once. It doesn't announce itself with a loud alarm or a dramatic moment. It happens slowly, quietly, in ways so subtle that most people mistake them for just getting older. And by the time those signs become impossible to ignore, a lot of damage has already been done. Today I'm going to share 7 of those silent signs with you, and I want you to watch until the very end, because sign number 5 is the one most people completely overlook, and it's often the most important. I'm Dr. Ronald. I've spent decades working with patients in their 60s, 70s, and beyond, and I can tell you honestly, the people who stay strong, active, and independent the longest are not the ones who got lucky. They're the ones who paid attention early. That's exactly what we're going to do together today. And before we get into it, if you want to stay strong and independent as you age, type yes in the comments right now. It takes 2 seconds, and it tells me you're ready to take this seriously. If this kind of information has been helpful to you before, please hit the like button and subscribe so you never miss a video like this one. It truly means the world to this community we're building together. Now, let's talk about what's really happening inside your body and why these 7 signs matter more than most people realize. Not exhausted from running a marathon. Not wiped out after a long day of physical labor. I'm talking about something much smaller than that. Walking to the mailbox. Carrying groceries from the car to the kitchen. Getting up from the couch to answer the door. If these ordinary, everyday tasks are now leaving you feeling drained in a way they didn't 5 or 10 years ago, your body is sending you a message. Here's what's happening inside. As we age, our mitochondria, the tiny energy factories inside every cell in your body, begin to decline in both number and efficiency. At the same time, our muscle mass naturally decreases in a process called sarcopenia, which can begin as early as your 40s, but accelerates significantly after 60. Less muscle means your body has to work harder to perform the same tasks, and a less efficient energy system means that extra effort comes at a higher cost. Think of it like an old car engine. It still runs, but it burns more fuel to go the same distance, and it takes longer to warm up in the morning. What most people misunderstand about this is that they assume fatigue is just a normal part of aging, something to accept and push through. But research from the National Institutes of Health suggests that progressive fatigue at this level is not inevitable. It's often a sign of treatable, addressable changes happening in your muscles, your blood, or your metabolism. And that means it's worth paying attention to. This next one surprises people. I've had patients laugh the first time I mention it. My grip? Really, doctor? Yes, really. Grip strength is one of the most powerful predictors of overall physical health in older adults. Multiple studies published through institutions like the Mayo Clinic have found that declining grip strength is associated with a higher risk of cardiovascular disease, cognitive decline, and even overall mortality. Your hand isn't just a hand. It's a window into what's happening throughout your entire musculoskeletal system. Here's a simple test. Open a jar of pickles, or a bottle of water, or try carrying 2 full shopping bags from the car without switching hands halfway up the driveway. If those tasks feel noticeably harder than they used to, if your hands fatigue quickly, or your fingers feel weak and unsteady, that's not a coincidence. That's your body asking for attention. I remember a patient of mine, a man in his late 60s named George, who came in complaining that he'd been dropping things, keys, his coffee mug, his phone. He thought it was clumsiness, maybe a little embarrassing, nothing serious. But when we looked deeper, his grip weakness was connected to a larger pattern of muscle loss that had been building for years without him noticing. Once we addressed it, with simple, targeted exercises and a few dietary changes, the difference within a few months was remarkable. He told me, "Doctor, I feel like I've got my hands back. Your muscles respond to the right kind of support." But first, you have to notice the sign. But here is where things start to get a little more personal. Most people assume that needing more sleep is simply what happens when you get older. And while sleep patterns do naturally shift with age, there's a crucial difference between sleeping more and sleeping well. And far too many people over 60 are doing the first without getting nearly enough of the second. Deep, restorative sleep. The kind where your brain consolidates memories, your body repairs tissues, and your immune system resets, tends to decrease significantly after 60. What you may be getting instead is lighter, fragmented sleep. You spend more hours in bed, but fewer hours in the deep stages where real recovery happens. The result? You wake up tired. You feel foggy in the morning even after 8 hours. You need a nap by mid-afternoon. And over time, this chronic, low-grade sleep deprivation quietly accelerates inflammation in the body, disrupts blood sugar regulation, and, critically, increases the risk of memory problems. Harvard Medical School researchers have highlighted the connection between poor sleep quality and the buildup of amyloid plaques in the brain, the same plaques associated with Alzheimer's disease. This doesn't mean poor sleep causes dementia, but it does mean that chronically poor sleep is not something to simply accept and ignore. If you're waking up tired more often than not, that is your body telling you something important. And the answer is not always more hours in bed. Sometimes it's about the quality of those hours, and that is something you can actually work on. Now let me ask you something else. Have you ever reached for a wall or a counter to steady yourself, even when you weren't doing anything dramatic? Have you caught yourself hesitating at the top of a staircase just a half-second longer than you used to? Or maybe you've noticed that standing on one foot, something you never thought about before, now feels slightly uncertain. These tiny moments, these micro-hesitations. Most people brush them off completely. I just moved too fast. I was tired. The floor was uneven. But the balance system in your body is extraordinarily complex. It involves your inner ear, your vision, the sensory receptors in your feet and joints, and the cerebellum in your brain, all working together in perfect coordination. When any one of those systems begins to decline, your balance is one of the first places it shows up. And here is why this matters so deeply. Falls are one of the leading causes of serious injury and loss of independence in adults over 65, according to the World Health Organization. But the fall isn't the real problem. The declining balance that led to it is, and that decline often begins years before any fall ever occurs. The good news, and I want you to hold on to this, is that balance is one of the most trainable physical qualities we have. Simple exercises done consistently, things as straightforward as standing on one foot near a counter or walking heel to toe in a straight line for 30 seconds, can genuinely improve balance at any age. Research suggests it's never too late to start. Your body is still listening. It just needs you to give it the right signal. And now we've arrived at sign number 5. This is the one I mentioned at the very beginning, the one most people overlook, and honestly, the one that concerns me most when I see it in my patients. I'm talking about memory playing small tricks on you. And this is where most people make a serious mistake. They notice it. They laugh it off. Oh, that's just a senior moment. And they move on. I understand the impulse. Memory lapses are embarrassing, frightening even, and the natural response is to minimize them, to protect yourself from the worry they carry. But dismissing these small moments entirely is one of the most costly things you can do for your long-term brain health. I'm not talking about forgetting something catastrophic. I'm talking about things like walking into a room and having absolutely no memory of why you went there, reaching for someone's name, a name you know well, and finding it just gone, reading a paragraph and realizing you have to read it again because nothing stuck the first time. These moments, when they start happening more frequently, are often early signs that the brain's processing efficiency is beginning to change. The hippocampus, the region of the brain most responsible for forming and retrieving memories, is particularly vulnerable to the effects of aging, chronic stress, poor sleep, and reduced blood flow. Think of the brain like a filing system. When it's healthy and well supplied, files go in and come out smoothly. When circulation slows, when inflammation creeps in, when the system is under-maintained, the filing starts to get messy. Things get misplaced. Retrieval takes longer. The critical message here is this: brain health is not fixed. Multiple studies, including research supported by the NIH, suggest that lifestyle factors like regular aerobic exercise, social engagement, quality sleep, and a diet rich in omega-3 fatty acids can meaningfully support cognitive function and may help slow age-related memory decline. Your brain is not done, but it does need your help. Now, this next sign doesn't get nearly enough attention, and I think that's because it feels too ordinary to take seriously. After 60, the digestive system undergoes significant changes. The muscles of the digestive tract can weaken and slow down. The stomach may produce less acid, making it harder to properly break down certain nutrients, particularly protein, vitamin B12, and iron. Beneficial gut bacteria, which play a critical role in everything from immune function to mood regulation, can become less diverse and less abundant. What does this feel like in everyday life? Bloating that lingers longer than it used to. Feeling uncomfortably full after a meal that wouldn't have bothered you years ago. Constipation that comes and goes for no obvious reason. Or perhaps just a general sense that your stomach is more sensitive than it used to be. And here is what most people misunderstand about this. They assume these changes are fixed. They start avoiding more and more foods. They eat smaller and smaller amounts. And in doing so, they often end up undernourished without realizing it, which then accelerates muscle loss, fatigue, and cognitive decline in a quiet, compounding cycle. I had a patient, a wonderful woman in her early 70s named Margaret, who had quietly stopped eating meat, then eggs, then most vegetables, because so many things seemed to upset her stomach. By the time she came to see me, she had lost nearly 8 pounds without trying, felt exhausted by noon every day, and couldn't understand why. Her diet had shrunk to almost nothing out of caution. We worked together to slowly reintroduce foods in gentler forms, added some targeted nutritional support, and within a few months, her energy had changed completely. She told me it felt like someone had turned a light back on inside her. Simple, consistent habits, eating slowly, prioritizing fiber-rich vegetables and fruits, staying well hydrated throughout the day, and adding fermented foods like plain yogurt or kefir to support gut bacteria can make a meaningful difference. It's not complicated, but it requires attention. And finally, the 7th sign. I saved this one for last because it is the most personal, and because it is the one most likely to be waved away without a second thought. Have you noticed that things which used to excite you, hobbies, plans with family, going somewhere new, now feel like more effort than they're worth? Have you found yourself saying, "I'll do it later," more often than you used to? Or perhaps you feel a low, gray kind of mood on some days that you can't quite explain or shake. This is not weakness. This is not a character flaw. And in many cases, it is not simply depression in the traditional sense. After 60, the brain's production of key neurotransmitters, including dopamine and serotonin, the chemicals responsible for motivation, pleasure, and emotional stability, naturally begins to decline. At the same time, hormonal shifts, reduced physical activity, social isolation, and chronic low-grade inflammation all compound to create a state where the emotional energy that used to feel effortless now requires deliberate effort to maintain. What I want you to really hear is this. This emotional flatness, this quiet withdrawal from life, if left unaddressed, can become a significant risk factor for cognitive decline, cardiovascular disease, and a reduced ability to maintain the independence and quality of life you deserve. But the research also shows that this is one of the most responsive areas to positive lifestyle change. Regular physical movement, even a daily 20-minute walk, has been shown to meaningfully boost dopamine and serotonin levels. Consistent social connection, even simple phone calls with people you love, has measurable effects on brain health and emotional well-being. Purposeful engagement, having something to look forward to, something to contribute to, is not a luxury. It is medicine. You were not built to simply sit and wait, and your brain and body respond powerfully when you remind them of that. Now, before I close, I want to bring something together for you. 7 signs, all of them quiet, all of them easy to explain away, all of them potentially pointing toward the same underlying truth, that your body and your brain need active, intentional care, not extreme measures, not perfect discipline, just consistent, gentle, informed attention. Fatigue that's getting harder to explain away, grip strength that's quietly slipping, sleep that leaves you unrested, balance that hesitates where it didn't before, memory that stumbles on familiar ground, digestion that no longer handles what it once did, and an emotional energy that feels like it needs a jump start. None of these mean it's too late. Every single one of them is a signal, and signals exist to be responded to. Here is what I want you to do after you finish watching this video. Pick just one of these 7 areas. 1. The one that resonated most with you, and make one small change this week. A short daily walk, a grip-strengthening exercise at the kitchen counter, a small change to what's on your plate. One thing. Because your body, even at 60, at 70, at 75 and beyond, retains a remarkable ability to respond to the right kind of care. The research supports this. The patients I've seen over the years confirm it, and I believe it for you. You are not too old. You are not too far along, and you are absolutely not alone in this. If this video spoke to you today, please take a moment to share it with someone you care about. A spouse, a sibling, a dear friend. You might be giving them something they didn't know they needed. And if you want me to go deeper on any of these 7 signs, specific exercises, specific foods, specific habits, leave a comment below telling me which one you want to know more about. I read every single one. I'm Dr. Ronald. Thank you for being here. Thank you for caring enough about yourself to watch until the end. Take care of yourself this week, because you absolutely deserve to feel your best, for yourself and for everyone who loves you. The information shared in this video is based on trusted medical knowledge from sources including the World Health Organization, the National Institutes of Health, the Mayo Clinic, Harvard Medical School, and the Cleveland Clinic.